Mm. All right, we are starting this off. Uh, Sound is good. Everything else is good. We can get going. So there is a person on YouTube. I'm not going to mention their name because I adhere to a North Korea-like policy where if I have a negative thing to say about another person on any of these websites, usually I don't mention the name unless there's some really big famous person, like a politician, some singer, individual that is so high in stature that I would never have to worry about them, getting upset or ever seeing my stuff. But this person, I've watched their content for multiple years. I consider them to be sophisticated, to make points that even if I don't necessarily support them, I still get where they're coming from. They're backed by fact. They're usually conducive to just some position that is based off of evidence, right? And I like to, in especially in more recent times, do things based off of what is proven and what is fact, and not really how I feel or emotion. So, like, I have the emotion of wanting to talk to chicks because I think that the more I speak to, it'll change what's happened for the last, you know, nearly was like 8, 9 years, whatever, 8 years. But when I look at the fact of every single one I approached said no, I said, okay, well, then there's nothing to be gained from doing this. Um, so he puts up a video about maybe a couple of weeks ago, and it's a good, decent production, but there's a part in the beginning of it that unnerves me, and it gets on my nerves because I've heard him say it before. And I don't have the direct line in front of me, but he basically said that everything we do is done so that it enables us to pass the time before we die. And I guess the way I look at this is that this is someone I've seen talk passionately about various topics, speak about his hobbies, and I don't get how you can participate in these various things that are, for the most part, out of leisure. I'm not paid to, or rather paid any substantial amount to. It's not like a job for me to just talk about political stuff or relationships or any of that. So it's mostly a thing of leisure, something that you just want to talk about because you can or you feel like you have something to say. Uh, and yet still arriving at the view that you're only saying this stuff because it's between living and death. Just it's this morbid, weird, contradictory position. I'll break it down. So the thumbnail, if you saw it, the one person who's in here, I don't know, the mystery man, um, is a picture of a T-shirt that on it says "Nothing Matters." Now, I like to believe that's satire because if we're to believe the person who made that actually thinks nothing matters, they wouldn't have made that damn shirt because nothing matters, right? They wouldn't have taken the time to I don't know if they did on the computer, they sprayed it on there, but they wouldn't have taken the time to make that shirt if they were so convinced that nothing matters. So it's this like weird contradiction that people keep having for some reason, and like it's all over the place. I actually had spoken to a person about 2 years ago, and I should also clarify that they claim that this is while they were in depression, and they have since evolved, and yada yada yada. This is still relevant for the topic though. Um, I was having some conversation with them, and they said something to the effect of "nothing matters," and this is someone who I knew was enrolled in school, um, worked, and I said to them, if nothing matters, right? Nothing, nothing we do makes any difference. Why the hell do you go to school? Why the hell do you work? Why the hell do you eat any food? Why do you drink anything? Uh, every last part of what they were saying, every last part of what they did, rather, did not line up with their rhetoric. Because when I think of a person who genuinely believes that nothing they do makes any difference, they're not going to do any damn thing. And hell, they might even kill themselves. I actually had spoken about the fact that I think the position of like believing that nothing actually amounts to anything is so self-defeating, and it makes, I guess what it is that I had a person who left a comment last year, or maybe it was late in the year before that, and we were talking about a topic that was pretty similar to this. And they were like, this video will not matter 100 years. And I'm like, well, if this video is so irrelevant, if what I say, has no legacy or any kind of remembrance to it at all, why the hell are you leaving a comment? But that's my point. All the people preaching this, nihilist nonsense have no way of combating those positions. Now, if you were to ask him, how do you juxtaposition saying that nothing matters with going to work and just doing all the other stuff you do? He would probably respond back by saying that he goes to work because he has to afford a place to live. But if nothing matters, then having a roof over your head shouldn't matter, right? And listen, this isn't about trying to catch someone in their words or, uh, you know, slickly, position them to be proven to be a hypocrite. It's mainly me saying I am so sick and tired of, whether it's turning on a video by that person or when I used to speak to the other one, hearing someone who does things, that are daily and that are done for a purpose. When you eat food, you don't just eat it because, oh, it looks so pretty, let me take a bite. Usually you eat because you're hungry. Maybe you want to actually enjoy the taste of something. Point is, there's a purpose to doing something as minor as that. I mean, you know, I could just sit here right now, have my stomach rumble, and grab a meal, and I wouldn't think twice about it. But I also would never be ridiculous enough to say that it didn't matter that I got something to eat. I would have been long dead by now if that was the case. Um, and I guess what's so disturbing is to have people who, like with this guy, he puts up a video, at least several of them, usually every single week, right? And I said to myself, you can't be that productive and talk about all these serious issues and think that nothing you say. And look, I'll be the first one to admit the uselessness of rhetoric. So I said before that I could talk about how stupid a lot of these antics that my contemporaries do. Whether it's to having children they can't afford, because they don't want to put on a loofah or a rubber or whatever. I could easily uh, talk about how dumb that stuff is over and over and over again. But do I actually believe it'll change what they do? No. But it wouldn't stop me from talking about how stupid it is, because I have a right to express my position. And, I look at it like this: if they can do something as harmful as destroying the life of a person who hasn't been born yet, I can do something as productive as speaking about something that is ridiculous and citing reasons for it being ridiculous. It's an even trade. And I guess one of the other facets of this that's really creepy is that if I were to believe that nothing I did mattered and then put up videos, then go to work, then go to school, um, I would literally be a walking contradiction. It's kind of like a person who says donating to charity, is not something people should partake in, right? But then I'm over here donating to Red Cross every year. Like, they don't square up. It doesn't mean the person's bad for their actions, because what these two people do on a day-to-day basis is not negative. One went to school, one went to work. Um, that's not the issue. This is not an attack on the personal antics of either character, but it's simply saying you can't do that stuff, on such a recurring, regular basis, and then be convinced that nothing matters, that everything you do is just this, what do you call it, TikTok time crap. I remember I actually had a visit with my best friend, who I mentioned before we don't see each other as often because he's goes to school out of state. Um, we went to the movies, and I didn't, I went to that movie. I didn't think to myself, this is some life changing, life altering uh, thing. But I said, this person seems happy. I'm satisfied to interact with this person. Uh, it's there's a basic sense of joy that makes that experience matter. Um, we do the project, for example, and we sit there and we draw out 600 pictures on average for each installment. And, I put it up on YouTube and it gets like, I don't know, 50 or 60 views. It's like, yeah, I prefer for that to get more views, but, I feel, the satisfaction of doing it is enough to make me continue regardless of the lack of attention that it's given. Um, and I'm not doing that because I think, oh man, if I put this out, I'm going to get some contract with whoever the hell. No, it's simply because when I do that, I feel content. And when it's finished or a part of it's finished, I feel satisfied. And I'm not doing that to pass time because, there's plenty of other stuff I could do with much less effort. Um, I'm doing it because I enjoy telling that story. And, it's an enormous sense of satisfaction. And I think if you can't get that out of life, it just that's when it actually feels like nothing matters. But then even if I were to say that, I would still eat. I would still do things that would actually be. I would probably take these people more seriously if they looked like the ones in Yemen that are starved from all the U.S. And Saudi Arabia bombs that have been going off, where they don't eat, they don't put up any do anything at all. They just sit around waiting to die. That I would actually believe them if they were preaching this nonsense while doing that. And according to both of these people, they're not suicidal, they're not depressed, but they're saying stuff like that. So, how do you square that up? How does it make any sense to even be of that position? I'd appreciate if one of the two of you that's in here would leave a comment, but whatever. But that would also be funny that, like, I would leave a comment, but nothing matters. It's like, well, hell, why do we have movies that sell for billions of dollars? People aren't going to those to get a life changing experience. They're going to have a good time. That matters to them enough to go, you know, sit and see some film. It's weird, man. People have all kind of they just pop off at the mouth and say stuff that I really don't give. It's and let me throw them a bone, right? Like do the little devil's advocate thing. If this were, let's say, 20 years in the future, right? And I have completed every single career type thing I want to do, right? Like I was saying before, I want to do documentaries. I want to, do some streams on some select issues. I want to finish the show. All kind of little, just like way out there stuff, like a basic timeline of having every single thing I can think of finished, right? Then I'd probably lean more into their mindset because I would literally, and this isn't being negative, it's me simply saying that you have at this point completed every single goal you want to do, right? Just as far as the whole spectrum of life. I probably lean more toward their thing of like nothing mattering, but that's not because, you know, I'm some negative, depressed person. It's because every single thing I wanted to do at that point has been done. Um, so there's a difference between me and them in terms of saying, hey, this matters, this doesn't matter. It's a lot more complicated than they want to let it on because they try to make it seem like, well, you just go to work because you have to. So no, you don't have to. There are plenty of homeless people that don't work. We were talking about what was it, the 44% that do work. So there's a solid majority that you know don't have jobs. You could easily become one of them. Again, not saying anyone should, but let's not have this fallacy that like someone grabs you by the neck and forces you to get up and go get a position. Because truth of the matter is, once you're over the age of 17 or 18, in most states anyway, there are other ones where you get older, a little bit younger, a year or two. But when you hit adulthood age, especially if you're a male, society doesn't care one iota about you. And a couple of things that includes is allowing you to self sabotage, um, allowing you to be homeless, allowing you to, you know, not have any position where you can acquire wealth, in a workspace. All of these things would just go completely out of the window. But the reason that the two of them worked while saying that nothing matters is because they're not stupid enough to believe their own ideology of nothing amounting to anything, and they know that if they did follow through and took it to that extreme, they would be in a box or in some predicament of poverty that would and not enable them to do the stuff that they do. And again, that's not me saying you should do that. No, it's simply saying that you can't do productive things that directly impact your life and then state that nothing matters. Well, I mean, you can, but it doesn't make any sense. And at first, I thought maybe it's like a general cynicism. Like for me, right? I've talked before about eventually wanting to get married, want to have children, and how it was the main frustrating thing with the chicks, right? But even if I don't think that will happen, or rather, I don't think it'll occur during a point where I still would want it, it hasn't been erased as something that I think of as important. So it's like this unattainable thing that I still believe is significant, just unattainable. Uh, but that's the difference. That there's a thing of saying, "Hey, this important thing I can't have, but it still is important." They're saying, "Oh no, these things that we do have, none of it matters." We buy all these clothes and all this technology. It's so insignificant. Again, that's their backwards logic. Uh, and look, before someone says, "Oh, you shouldn't critique these people. They have the right." No, no one's telling me they don't have the right. So let's not do the little word smears where people will take what I say and then add their own little extension on it. Um, I just find it really sad that two people that I think are very smart, or at least in the higher echelon of intellect, would say something that's stupid. Like I don't understand what causes them to be so contradictory and like not like because they don't actually see what how to explain this. So with the Yang videos, I put the camera in front of the screen because I don't feel like basically my camera has like a thing where the audio isn't that good or isn't as good on my phone, and I have to like flip it over and then I have to edit it. It's a big hassle. It's much easier to do it that way, right? But one of them they do it that way with everything, and you don't see their expression, but you can hear their tone, and they genuinely believe that every single thing they do, that he does rather, between being born and death is just to pass time, and it's so inconceivable to me. You have a lot of people who they don't really do much of anything other than listen to music and hang out somewhere, and they're not active on social media, or if they are, they're not posting anything, they're not really engaging with anyone. So I can kind of see where they say this is all like insignificant, right? But this is someone who you know has generated thousands of subs, has had you know hundreds, if not thousands, of comments written to him on all of his stuff. And it's like, how do you get social media presence that big? And it's not like you post a picture of your butt and everybody's going. No, it's people responding to what he has to say. It's a intellectual, or at least on his end, it is an intellectual back and forth. Um, and it's like, how do you have that happen and then still conclude that all of these social media things are just of no significance? That's what made me not even want to actually write anything else in this stuff. It's just like, well, hell, if this is so non-consequential, Why even participate in it? And I never get that. Like with me, my mindset is always, if I find someone's stuff enjoyable, I watch it. There doesn't have to be some like deep psychological um, revelation. I've watched people's channels where they talk about cartoons. I've watched people's channels where they talk about politics. As long as they're covering that topic in a manner that I think is correct or entertaining or both, I'll check them out. And I don't do that because I think in 50 years this will be a video I remember. No, I do it because they're putting out something that I enjoy, and my entertainment and satisfaction with what I view and how I spend free time matters to me. That's why I don't talk to many chicks anymore, because I got tired of people wasting my time. That's something that actually is of value to me because you're progressively going to have less and less of it. Um, but again, this is simply me saying you don't always need to have these like morbid perspectives on stuff. Again, when your stomach rumbles, you get food. That's it. When you feel like a little thing down here, a little tingle, Spider-Man in the spider sense tingling, you go to the bathroom. Do one, two, or both. When you feel some part of you aching, you go to the doctor. And you don't do that because you are required to do this by some like force, like some kind of I don't know, telekinetic force picks you up and makes you go there. You do that because you want to feel better, whether it's relieving yourself of being hungry, relieving yourself from some part of yourself aching. You do those things because your uh, health is important to you. And these are people who I know for a fact have gone to doctors and eaten food, obviously, and yet they'll still tell you that all this stuff is insignificant. And I've seen one of them actually try to say that on a global scale, what they do doesn't matter, right? Well, a globe is made of billions of people, right? I think it's 3 billion. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, if all 3 billion people disappear, the globe would be nothing. Everything would go to hell because you have a certain number of people who generate the ability of things to continue to go. You've got people who work power plants, miners, doctors, teachers, and just you get the point. They make the world go round. And even if they one by one are not going to get, I don't know, a book written about them or a movie or uh, some big standing ovation from their entire town, they still did something that actually impacted people. For example, have had dozens and dozens of teachers, and some of them I remember the name of, some of them I don't. But they still did something that was significant by being my teacher for a year, however long they were. I've had Uber drivers. If they weren't there, I would have had to walk back from far distances and maybe couldn't have gotten to where I was. Point is, when you even when they say that thing about like the global, the geopolitical spectrum of it, of oh yeah, what we do makes no difference. It still doesn't make sense because there's so many people who do little small things that all add up together. I see. I made one person leave because they were so bored and disappointed. I don't know what you want from me. I'm trying to, well, whatever. YouTube is finicky, and the people on there just as much. So I'm not too surprised. Uh, what else can I really say? I see we're getting into that kind of like lazy man territory, and that's why I was stating that you know people their level of ability to just sit back and hear something is really shot. Like it's technology advanced while the brains of my contemporaries have done that. Uh, I guess we can probably close out now since our other person decided to depart without saying anything. I was so hurt. Oh, I shouldn't be hurt because nothing matters. Dude, I would love to make like a little parody video where I just go around. I don't know, like just make it kind of like a day in the office kind of thing. Where like I was gonna eat this burger, And someone else, well, why didn't you? Why should I? Nothing matters. I'm hungry. Well, get something to eat. Why should I? Nothing matters. Well, then why did you tell me you were hungry? Uh, I think that'll be really funny because it's just the irony. Like, we're going to keep doing all of these things, because we feel like it, but then we're going to tell you that none of it matters. We're going to do all these things while telling you that they have no consequence. I was thinking about the show, and I really, if the voice actor thing wasn't as perplexing, like basically if I wasn't in this kind of like vegetative state where I'm always worried that someone's going to quit and I won't be able to replace them, I would have no problem doing that show for another 10 or 20 years. I'm not even joking, and I wouldn't do that because I think I'm making some kind of groundbreaking, wonderful material that's going to be revolutionary, like The Simpsons or One Piece or whatever. I would do it because I enjoy the story, and when I make those, I get this satisfaction that I don't get from a lot of other things that really, uh, has a lot to do with my happiness, and that matters to me. And really, all these people who are saying that stuff, they know that a lot of the stuff they do pertains to their happiness, which is essential to them because they wouldn't do it. This guy told me, mentioned, not told me, but in his video, he's talking about his hobbies. And these are all things that it's not like paying taxes or going to work. So it's stuff that he chooses to do because it makes him feel, good. And him feeling good matters. Otherwise, he wouldn't do those things. 'Cause remember, they want you to give them exceptions. Oh, I work because I have to live somewhere, even though you don't. Um, so by their own logic, those other things they do, like play video games or I don't know, collect bottle caps or something, those are things that they do because they want to enjoy whatever that activity is, and their enjoyment matters to them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just wish they'd be more honest about it. I wish they would stop trying to act like, you know, everything is so insignificant. Like the guy that left a comment. If this stream was so non-important, why did you comment on it? Or rather, that was a video. Excuse me. Uh, it's all just walking contradictions. It's the equivalent of me telling you I want shiny white teeth, but then I don't brush my stuff, and I wonder why it's yellow. You can't say something like that and then do the opposite and then expect to be taken seriously on that position. Again, these two people have said things about multiple other topics where I'm not in agreement, but that's because when they say it, they actually stand by it with proof via their own lives. One of them will mention that you shouldn't be around this type of person that um, you know steals stuff, lies, and they show themselves through their limited associations to not be around this type of people. So they live the lifestyle they're trying to get you to agree with, or at least understand their reasoning for believing is the best way to live. And even if I don't participate in the same activity, I can't dispute the whether it's an anecdotal story or some example they give to highlight their points. But when you go on here and you say all of this stuff is inconsequential while you're going to work, while you're putting up videos, while you're talking to people in your comments, like what the hell is that? I just I wish people would make more sense. And I guess the benefit is that they, for the most part, do. But that was just a weird position. And you understand there was a year-long gap between when the person I spoke to said it, which was in like late 2017, and when I saw the video where this person first mentioned that, which is a few weeks ago rather, um, and I'd kind of just written it off when it was said by the person 2 years ago because it was just whatever. It's him being a little negative individual for some reason. Um, but when I looked at this person's video, and I've again been watching their stuff for years, and they've put things up recurringly enough to where you get the impression that it matters to them to talk about these things, and then it comes out of their mouth that nothing matters. Well, what the hell? Like, what are you talking about? How does one, how do you say this and then have the reverse be stated? Yeah, Megumi, there's not much relationship stuff here, so you have to come back next week. You'll have to depart. I don't know who that one person was that was here, but they're really lucky. This isn't my usual pattern I had where I would stream every day, but I would cut it off if I streamed for like more than 10 minutes and no one was there, or like because this would have been over a while ago. They're lucky that I've attached myself to the doctrine of having a stream every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So they got off with that one. It's like the lady lack in logic where every time we would speak, she'd want to do it later in the day where I have other people around and I can't be as loud and actually say how I feel, which would include, raising my voice. Like, yeah, you keep slipping away. You keep, you know, getting through the cracks. Lightning kept striking twice. She was really lucky with that. That was, I think, the entire in the maybe 20, 30 phone calls we had, I only had one with her where there was like no one around. And I think in that one, someone actually did come in the midst of it. Yeah. So every single call, there was someone around. And that's why she didn't get her proper verbal retribution. Very, very lucky. She had a guardian angel that saved her ears because I was sure about to go off. Like I actually don't speak that loudly on here. You kind of can notice that. That's not because I'm some soft-spoken, shy person that you know doesn't want to say anything that could be considered mean or what. No, it's because every time I stream, there's always someone around. That's why when I did the Patreon thing, I said, "Here's the maximum of what I ideally would want," and that's so I can get away from having any kind of disturbances that don't allow me to fully engage in the way I would want to. So I get a lot of mischaracterization because of something I can't control, which is to be expected because, like we said before, um, in a normal society where a guy approaches 80 or 90 chicks, people would say, okay, that's a person who's straight. But in goofy, backwards, uh, anyone can make a social media account, you know, 21st century, we have people who will say that someone who approaches that many times might be homosexual. That they went out and approached dozens of chicks to mask what they truly were. Oh man, people are so. I really sometimes just think that you could open up some of these people's brains and like or their heads, right? And you would get a brain that's like the size of my pinky finger cut in like 25% of it. And there's the level of intellect is really just man. I mean, like forget the political stuff, even though I do think certain parts of that people should know just on a basic, you know, and especially with the digital era, but whatever. Like when you're so ridiculous that you can see someone do the opposite of something and then say they don't want that, it's so goofy. It's like something out of a Disney movie. Oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. Yeah, I think we've pretty much. What else is there to mention here? We're gonna have the live show at 6 at Pacific Standard Time. Uh, I'm trying to think. We have something else that's a big deal that is getting ignored by me. If I can remember what it is. Hmm. Hmm. Oh yeah. Um. All the bottom line of this is that don't let any of these people tell you that nothing matters because whether they work or play games or do like these hobby things, all of that stuff is done so that they can make themselves comfortable and pretend like their own satisfaction with the stuff they do doesn't matter to them while they do those things. I remember we had the "Do You Feel Forgotten" video from last year, and I had a person who was like, because I was saying that it's kind of disturbing that we put so much focus on people who do the wrong thing, um, which is why I had the line that you could work somewhere for 30 years and get no articles written about you, except for maybe when you retire. But if you go up to a store and shoot up 30 people one evening, here they come with all the news cameras and the little different, you know, pictures and vultures seeking research and whatnot. And I had said that if society was smart, it would take people who have long, productive careers and actually try to tell stories relating to them, because it would send off an image of, we actually appreciate the service of these people. And I didn't expect something like that to get a negative comment. There was someone like, "That's stupid. What's the difference between two people who are working the same job?" I was like, well, I, for example, could easily say I went to high school for 4 years, but you know, how many people who went there got accused of stalking a classmate by calling them? How many people who went there, um, you know, got it? Just there's a lot of individual things that go into that. Someone who went there the same year as me could have gotten knocked up. That would be a completely different experience from what I experienced, from what I had concurrently. So a lot of times it's not the profession, but the people who determine how specific something is. Hell, when I was in my last semester, so the final part of 12th grade, I had my own show. Few episodes of it were out at that point. So how many people can say that? That's what I'm saying. People just they run their mouths off on these keyboards. They type stuff that and say things in videos that don't really make much sense. But again, whenever you just respond back, they want to like have a never-ending debate. Gumi says they always spin that narrative these days. It's insane how much we are conditioned to just put up with and tolerate people like that. Well, that's why I don't tolerate them. I didn't respond to that person's comment, and I just kind of left it to where it was. I don't really a lot of the stupid stuff that's written now. I choose not to respond to it anymore, because I've seen people literally type out paragraphs to me, and when I respond back appropriately, like write paragraphs back to them, they tell me they either say they inform me they're not going to read it, or they try to like be selective with what they read. Like they'll take a piece of it in their response and then ignore the rest of it. People do that with videos too. I can sit here and talk for, I don't know, 3 minutes, and they will take 15 seconds of audio and like put it in parentheses, like, you said this, but it doesn't go along with that. Like, do you have anything to say about the rest of it? Don't deflect. Like, I'm not. You're commenting on video and you're focused so much on this one part. Did you agree with any of the rest of it? It feels like a very simple question. Uh, I've had 40-minute streams. People take a piece of that. Well, what did you mean by this? I remember there was this one guy that had, I think during a stream I had said, I told this woman about what I wanted. And I think in that same, it was either that same stream or right before that, I had said that the main thing I always try to get is a committed relationship, right? But I didn't say it in that moment. So he goes on my comment section, it's like, you said you told them what you wanted, but you're ambiguous. And like tries to make it seem like I'm purposely not telling these people because I have some kind of nefarious, sinister motive that is just lurking in the background. That when they least expect it, I'm gonna strike. Mwahaha. I was reading that comment like, you idiots. We literally told you in video after video what the hell we were talking about, and you just acted like you didn't see it. And we know you acted because we watched it ourselves and heard it. I was saying people they get on my nerves too much for me to like put up with them at this point. And I was thinking, I was like, you come on here and you put stuff up. You've seen these people leave comments on other people's stuff, and they'll be the first people to tell you that nothing matters is they're watching all this stuff and they're leaving comments telling you how they feel. It's like, well, if nothing matters, why'd you tell me how you felt? It's like that person who said that I was going to be forgotten the day I died. I was like, well, hell, apparently you're going to remember me for as long as I live because you're leaving comments on my stuff. Go away. I'm very consistent. I don't, I talk about there are channels I don't like. I don't watch any of their stuff. I might have seen one or two, three different videos where I said, yeah, that person is not someone I want to see the material of or retain as a viewer or retain as someone I view the material of, and I leave them alone. I have this one guy. He got like a little splash because he messed with someone I like to watch back in November of I think 2016, and I watched a total of three of his videos. And ever since then, I've seen his stuff appear in my recommended. I've seen his stuff appear on other websites. I've even seen people I'm cool with online mention this stuff, and I always ignore it because he's not doing anything that requires me to click on his stuff. And it doesn't mean what he does is doesn't matter because there are people who enjoy it. It just doesn't matter to me. Apart from it being on my list of stuff to my mental list of stuff to avoid. Uh, so it all goes together. People claiming that something is so insignificant, but then they spend the time to do it, and then it's like when I talked about wanting a child, I talked about wanting to get married because that stuff matters to me. And even if it's something I can't get, I still think it's significant. I still think that if two parents get together and plan it out, it's going to whatever the result is going to be a hell of a lot better than oh, I don't have any rubber. Doesn't matter. My banana can control itself with moving the skins around to where it doesn't impregnate you. 9 months later, oh, here comes the baby. That like that's not ideal. But again, in backwards, we don't think past today society. It is. So I was saying I don't fit in because I don't. The Megumi says the back and forth nonsensical rubbish. Just picture him having like some accent. Like that rubbish. I've actually seen people I like leave comments like they'll when people leave um, negative stuff on their material, they'll leave comments arguing against what someone has said, and I'm like, dude, what's the point of that? They're not going to change their mind, and if they do respond, it's either going to be them, announcing that they will not read what you wrote, which is dumb, or ignoring the majority of your points. Like I've seen it happen too often in my comment section and in other people's various comment sections to even like think that's not something that they do. So it's all just really ridiculous. But it feels like for each year that passes, stuff stays exactly the same. Uh, some cases that good, some cases it's in some cases that good, in some cases it's good, in other cases it's really horrible and ridiculous. Uh, you know, I've seen a lot of people that I like the opinions of just let themselves become convinced that this is as good as it ever gets and all the other wonderful jazz. I'm like, well, if that's true, then what the hell are we fighting against? I mean, with me, my thing is to just simply let the train crash and try to stay out of the way of receiving any of its collateral damage. Um, I, the person who was nice toward, if you remember Megumi, the one that had the that got knocked up, and it's like, I don't support that lifestyle, so I don't want to be involved with that person anyway. I don't want them, showing up anywhere near me. I don't want to interact with them. Nothing. I just I avoid and detest things that I find morally objectionable. I'm a person who can tolerate cigarettes. I'm a person who can tolerate tattoos. Stuff that doesn't actually affect one's quality of living. But if you're going to have a kid you can't afford, um, with someone else who's not going to make that any better purposefully, because these people choose to not wear their loofies when they do it. You're not someone I want to be involved with in any capacity. And I don't feel like that's a controversial opinion. I think if more people had that, a lot more people would be reluctant to participate in that activity. That's why it's so disturbing that you'll see people more upset with me for saying something than these people for actually doing something. It's so I said it's all backwards. Well, look, so I think I've addressed this stuff. Uh, Again, you got to get to a point where you find fulfillment in things and not sound ridiculously cynical for no reason. Because if any of these people were as of the belief that nothing matters as they claim, they would kill themselves. I'm glad they don't, but again, going off of their rhetoric, it would just be the natural step to do it. And I gave the example of how if I completed every single thing I wanted, if I, let's say, did all of my show, if I did, worked wherever I wanted to work, had whatever wealth I wanted, saw various people that I liked reach the pinnacles of their career, I would have nothing to live for, and I would probably end it all. But as it stands, I have multiple things to, be excited about and to think of as important, um, which delays me doing any, crap like that. So again, that's me trying to play devil's advocate and get where they're coming from. But at a certain point, you got to cut off the extension and just say things are stupid. No, Megumi, it's I just think of it as a routine thing. Like one day I sat back and I made I wouldn't call it a bucket list, but it's like, what is the ultimate thing you want from this particular endeavor, right? It's like, okay, you got a few people that you want to see accomplish certain things that probably aren't going to get the help of others if you don't get involved. Um, the projects, obviously, I've talked about one of the two documentaries on multiple different people, so it's like it's a sort of planned out thing. Uh, and that's pretty much it. I can't want to do all those things and then say nothing matters because I would have nothing to live for if I believe that. Or I'd be like these people and be a walking contradiction. Oh, nothing matters as I do this show for multiple years and help this person get through school so they can, actually be accomplished uh, according to society. Because we've already talked about my deteriorating view of the education system. It's so stupid to pay thousands of dollars on the hope that when you get your little stupid piece of paper, it'll like actually mean something and you'll be able to get all that back. That's why I call it a pyramid scheme. But we can talk about that more at length if someone actually wants to hear that. Um, I'm thankful that someone finally thumbs up. I was sitting here just like hoping and praying. I didn't want to say anything. Please, please, please. So we'll do the stream at 6, and we'll have one on Sunday or tomorrow rather, and then one on Monday, and that'll be it. Thank you, Wizard. You're a new character. I believe I've seen you before. Maybe you're one of the like what 2% of the Yang people that sub. I had like 50 people sub from like the last week or so. It was crazy. I was like, who the hell are they? I am with the how cynical I am with subs. Like, yeah, they click that red button, but then when somebody puts something up, it's like Satana. They just do the vanishing act. Just, man, that's crazy. Like this website is so backwards to where you don't even like take it seriously anymore when people do what is supposed to be a good thing. Yeah, that stupid red button. I actually have multiple people that I don't sub to, but I watch their content because I actually like now I try to field out a whole channel before subbing to it. Um, and a lot of people I'm sub to actually don't even upload anybody. They're just like archives of like people I used to watch years ago. So I've really tried to curtail making that commitment because now I do take it seriously. Like I don't want to get on here and say it's stupid for people to do that to me, but then do it to other people. I have one person, he's a political commentator. He's got like 19,000. He's getting like a couple hundred views per video. It's like that's crazy to me. So I've gone over to his stuff and I've started watching it more. I actually had a whole playlist where I was gonna just watch his stuff in order, and I'm probably gonna try to go back to that. And it's a lot of stuff, but it it's still doable. I think that if he took the time to make it, I can take the time to watch it. Feels like a fair trade. But look, thank you for showing up. Um, Particularly Megumi, because he was the only person that left any comments before. We got like this weird influx of like two or three more people, and hopefully you show up for the say for the third time for the live show at 6 Pacific Standard Time, or a little bit sooner or later than that. Uh, but yeah, see you later. And again, have some kind of ambition or some kind of long term goal, because those things can go a long way. When it as a person who is really sick of the chick stuff, if I only wanted to, I don't know, get screwed, even though you can, again, you can go to Vegas and get that for a couple of dollars, so it's not exactly unattainable as many people claim to you. I genuinely would have nothing to live for. But hey, there's all this other stuff out there that I will have have for a very long time to keep me busy. So thank you.